Hi guys, welcome to Fic Fusion. Today we will see what if Naruto defied the laws of nature. Let's see. Stunning hair, such clear, awesome shade of crimson. Is it herbal? Sakura is 5 the first time she is taken to the matchmaker. This isn't always as bizarre as one may assume. The Haruno have turned out to be a surprisingly success service provider extended family, and it most effective makes feel for them to cooperate with a number of the nice matchmakers within the US of it to guarantee the great matches for their young. Consulting the matchmaker early on will help deliver Sakura the high-quality viable probabilities for an auspicious healthy later. Of course, she gets it from her father, although his hair was by no means as vibrant as hers. Precise, brightly colored hair has come to be a fashion among the aristocracy, and purple is mainly favored in other halves. If we play our cards proper, we might seize you a noble at some point. Lady the matchmaker continues to circle Sakura's small form, vital eyes assessing every part of her. She's grateful too. Were dressed for the occasion in her best kimono, the colorful sunshades and smooth silk, making her experience less like the ugly duckling she usually is. The reward makes her straighten a touch similarly, a proud little smile on her lips, as she shoots her mom and aunt, a satisfied look, sensitive construct, truthful complexion, terrific green eyes. The matchmaker keeps coming to a halt earlier than Sakura again. Sure, there is masses of capability in you, child. The matchmaker is an implementing individual, steel gray hair accrued in a strict bun, darkly calculating eyes, and numerous thick, richly colored layers of silk in her kimono. All in all, the matchmaker would possibly just be the most terrifying man or woman Sakura has ever met. Her praise includes a corresponding weight of significance. Grandmother has first-rate hopes for her. Sakura's Aunt Kasumi, her father's sister, states, smiling proudly. She gives Sakura a thrilled look, her blue eyes shining brightly. Like Sakura, she's dressed in a purple kimono, although Aunt Kasumi has a herbal grace and beauty to her that Sakura can handiest dream of, and of direction. Her kimono perfectly fits her pink hair. We all do. Her mother, Mabuki, adds, for motives Sakura can't fathom. There's a sharp aspect to her words, and her eyes, identical to Sakura's personal, have something difficult in them, not like Sakura and Aunt Kasumi. Mabuki is wearing a simple, white kipao dress, her shoulder-length blonde hair combed returned, however putting freely. Sakura thinks that what her mother lacks in elegance, she takes again in simplistic beauty, and of direction. Her mother has the first-class hugs, and the high-quality bedtime testimonies. Inside the whole global, a glance is exchanged between her aunt and her mother, a silent communique Sakura can't comply with. While the tension grows between them, her smile falters slightly. The fights between her aunt and her mom are rare, as typically her mother will fold to whatever her aunt needs on occasion, but her mom gets that hint of metal in her eyes, so that it will prelude an extended argument. Like I stated, there is tremendous capability in Sakura-chan, the matchmaker repeats, correctly breaking the anxiety between the two women, and drawing the eye return to herself. I suggest you permit the hair grow, to intensify its beauty. Find a fashion so one can flatter that too huge forehead. She gestures in the air near Sakura's face, indicating her brow. Sakura's previously proud smile falters of root. Aunt Kasumi replies, bowing her head to the awareness of the matchmaker. And what about her training? Mabuki asks. Get started out on it as soon as possible. Looks will only accomplish that. Plenty. To be a suitable bride for the aristocracy, she can need to learn how to sing and recite poetry, choose and tool for her to study, educate her to stitch and embroider, to hold herself in a way suitable for her destiny station. Sakura feels her eyes grow larger, and she or he glances towards her mother and aunt. Will she surely be capable of learn all of those matters? It will be completed, Aunt Kasumi replies, bowing once more to the matchmaker. So, then there is wish for her to analyze all those matters. Sakura swallows nervously, looking down in her palms, and fiddling with her dress. She has simply these days started to learn how to examine and write, and at the same time, as she is glad for the possibility to learn extra, the matchmaker's expectations appear overwhelmingly excessive. Her father wanted her to go into the Shinobi Academy, her mother says, her voice wearing sharply in the otherwise silent room, to end up a kunoichi one day, and serve Konoha, and Sakura has expressed to me that it's far her wish to follow in her father's footsteps. Sakura seems up again, her gaze touring from her mom to her aunt and subsequently selecting the matchmaker, who has an ugly expression on her face, like she has just stepped in something ugly. Handiest fools pay attention to the need of kids. Youngsters are to be molded to do as they may be instructed in order that they grow into decent adults, by way of their very nature. Youngsters do not know what they actually need. The matchmaker's voice is tough, and Sakura hunches her shoulders instinctively. She shoots her mother a look, grateful for the quiet dedication she sees there. Then I am an idiot, but a fool that has official guardianship over this child. Sakura cannot help but gape a little on the natural metallic in her mother's voice. The matchmaker is terrifying, but right here her soft-spoken mother is brazenly difficult. Her, earlier than my contamination and my husband's premature loss of life, I was a shinobi too, and in step with the Hokage's law, my right to my personal infant trumped that of a civilian extended family. The room falls into absolute silence. The anxiety thick enough that Sakura struggles to breathe around it as she slowly seams between her mom and the matchmaker. Her father is useless. The matchmaker asks it, remaining, her voice quiet and thoroughly neutral. Yes, he passed away 2 years ago. Aunt Kasumi explains he sacrificed his existence to guard an innocent little lady from kidnapping. Mabuki provides, he died a hero and became posthumously promoted to chunin. I will not shame his memory via throwing away his dream for his best child. The matchmaker nods at this, tilting her head barely as she appears at Sakura and quietly considers this statistics. Sakura stands frozen in vicinity, feeling just like a deer earlier than the hunter. However, she forces herself to breathe, to swallow and moisten her mouth sufficient for her to speak. It's real. I want to come to be a shinobi, like my father. Shinobi Dai, the matchmaker tells her then. Life as a shinobi is tough, ugly and past all thankless. It'll be much easier if you want to carry honor in your circle of relatives via a suitable marriage than as a kunoichi. I recognize, Sakura says, though she easily thinks that she has very little concept of what life as a shinobi is virtually like. She increases her chin, meeting the older woman's gaze. I want to become a kunoichi. Her mom offers her an encouraging smile and Sakura bureaucracy her fingers into fists, seeking to stop them from trembling. The matchmaker's eyes linger for a few moments extra on Sakura, before transferring directly to Mabuki, and eventually touch down on Aunt Kasumi. Well, she's still younger. I think there is no damage in making ready her for each paths. That way, Sakura will one day be able to select for herself whether or not she desires to grow to be a shinobi or a female. How does that sound? Just like the matchmaker, Sakura watches her aunt and mother cautiously, understanding that it's miles her future that hangs inside the balance. She isn't always positive that the matchmaker's proposal is a good deal of in development, seeing as she cannot to study even more matters this way, but at the least, she'll be allowed to enter the Shinobi Academy. This manner that would be applicable. Aunt Kasumi sooner or later has the same opinion. For now, at the least, as long as the selection is sincerely Sakura's, and no longer pressured upon her by means of others, her mother says pointedly, eyes narrowed in caution. Then it's miles decided. Haruno Sakura will enter the Shinobi Academy, like her mothers and fathers want her to, and she or he will learn how to grow to be a female. There are about 2 handfuls of children like her in her magnificence, kids who the majority of her classmates and instructors refer to as civilians or civilian-born. This is unique from the relaxation of her classmates, who are both extended family-born or shinobi-born, relying on whether or not they are from one of the main shinobi clans, or simply from dad and mom, which are shinobi but not related to any of the most important clans. From the tone of voice that her classmates and instructors use, Sakura deduces that there's a hierarchy. The top consists of the predominant shinobi clans, of which several even have extended family heirs in her elegance. The Yamanaka, the Nara, the Abiram, the Hyuga and so forth. On the opposite stop of the hierarchy are Sakura and the civilians. My parents are shinobi too. Sakura items when she learns of this difference, the possibilities folks and the others infuriates her, especially as she's considered one of the outsiders. No, they're not. Your mother's retired, and your dad changed into a genin. A tactless boy named Kiba replies, it's like the bottom rank. The factor is which you start out as a genin, after which paintings your manner up, become chunin, after which jounin. The Yamanaka heiress, Ino, who's been typed to Sakura, lightly explains, no actual shinobi remains a genin except you stay inside the civilian district. In order that makes you a civilian. Any other boy named Shikamaru chimes in, his good judgment unfailingly sharp for a 5-year-old. So Sakura is a civilian in spite of her intentions to grow to be a shinobi. She does not thoughts too much, due to the fact she quickly learns that she's smarter than most of the opposite youngsters. Besides, who cares if she's civilian or shinobi born? So long as she gets the quality grades. Worse then is the realization that there's but any other us in them, which Sakura learns about quickly thereafter. You are an immigrant, certainly one of her fellow civilian women tells her, with a tone, as though she has simply pointed out that Sakura stinks and not. Sakura objects hotly in with her fingers fisted tighty. The Haruno clan are traitors, however they got here as immigrants. The equal female replies, my dad says you can't agree with them, because who knows in which their loyalties lie precisely. If they were virtually refugees, why are they traveling everywhere in the world? Some other woman chimes in, it ought to be safer for them to settle down in one location. Human beings like you are a burden to the relaxation people who have lived in Konoha for generations. She cries then, which makes them snicker, and she or he cries later. By myself in her room, as she stands earlier than the reflect and watches her extraordinary, unnatural hair color, and her abnormal, overseas eyes, and her atypical too large brow, all of it marks her as a foreigner, and there is nothing she will do to hide any of it. She's now not a shinobi, and he or she's now not a civilian. So what's she? Luckily, Aunt Kasumi knows precisely what to say to comfort and distract Sakura. She's started out Sakura's schooling closer to becoming a female, and Sakura is now being taught alongside her cousin, Aunt Kasumi's eldest daughter Kiku. Kiku is 2 years older than Sakura, and in all likelihood, the second most stylish and sleek character Sakura is aware of, right after Aunt Kasumi herself, which Sakura supposes makes feel they're jealous. Aunt Kasumi assures her, they see your lovely hair and eyes, and they recognize they'll in no way have the equal opportunities you may, but they're so much better at the whole thing than I'm. Sakura says, deliberating how the shinobi-born children already seem to recognize so much about shinobi existence. They might be better at some matters, however the curse of the great shinobi clans is that they're best truly correct at one element, being shinobi. Aunt Kasumi offers her a pointed appearance, handing her a chunk of material and a needle earlier. Then she begins to type through a basket of various exceptional threads. They've guarded their secrets for generations and cultivated jutsus and kekkei genkai, but in the end all they may be good at is preventing. You, on the other hand, are clever, sufficient to analyze all of their secrets, but you have the opportunity to climb a great deal better than any in their children ever will. As daughters of the Haruno extended family, we will marry into electricity, cousin Kiku provides, leaning ahead excitedly. Who knows, one folks would possibly even marry the Destiny Daimyo. She squeals on the concept earlier than returning her interest to her embroidery. A very precise and sensitive searching chrysanthemum shinobi clear up their issues by way of combating. Aunt Kasumi surmises, a lady is lot smarter than that, and this is why they envy you. Sakura accepts the thread her aunt fingers her, and then makes a speciality of seeking to comply with the directions for how to make her stitches. She is not pretty convinced that Aunt Kasumi is right. However, then Aunt Kasumi isn't grown up, and adults commonly recognize what they're speaking about, so Sakura possibly shouldn't object. Sakura's lifestyles begins to fall right into a habitual. She spends her days on the academy, in general on my own, and looking to examine the whole thing she desires to understand, so one can become a shinobi. When the academy we cut out in the afternoon, she hurries domestic and keeps her lessons to turn out to be a woman. Mainly Aunt Kasumi teaches her. However, every now and then some other aunt or cousin will step in. Every time Aunt Kasumi can't, she learns calligraphy and etiquette. She studies poetry and starts off evolved to learn some songs, even as she would not have Kiku's natural talent with embroidery or Aunt Kasumi's herbal elegance. Sakura takes eagerly to all the information that is being acceded to her at the academy. She attempts to make buddies with the few youngsters who are outsiders like her. There is a lady named Aimi and dual boys named Daichi and Michi. The woman is lucky enough to have a herbal hair coloration. This is something that isn't pink, or green or purple. or blue or some other color so commonplace inside the district where Sakura lives, however so uncommon within the relaxation of Konoha, and is therefore capable of more effortlessly healthy in the various different civilian-born children. Sakura tries no longer to envy her an excessive amount of, particularly when Aimi broadcasts that she can now not be on foot to high school with Sakura. Despite the fact that they live at the identical street, Daichi and Michi both have vibrant, pink hair, and are consequently absolutely not able to soften into the history of the schoolroom. Like red-purple isn't always absolutely a hair color. This is local to Konoha. Sakura sees them sitting alone at recess, but hesitates to technique them, mostly due to the fact they're boys, however also because they somehow continually appear so content with best every different for organization. In spite of this, she sooner or later processes them, reason on introducing herself properly, and asking them to be her friends. She isn't always even allowed to complete her advent earlier than one in every of them name callings at her and storms off. The opposite one shrugs, searching mildly apologetic. Sorry, he says, we're quitting. Seems we're not reduce out to be shinobi. In any case, they do not return to the academy tomorrow. Sakura considers doing the equal. She enjoys the instructional aspect of the academy, but a large part of her training is likewise physical, and that is her weak factor. She does not like jogging, or doing push-Americ air pull-ups, or getting sweaty and grimy, and she or he's horrible at sparring. Dropping each fit she's set, Sakura has almost made up her mind. When Ino occurs, Yamanaka Ino has been typed to Sakura from the begin. Due to the fact she's simply that form of individual, Ino is friendly with every person. One of the maximum famous ladies of their magnificence, if now not the maximum popular woman. On top of that, she's also the heiress to one of the fundamental shinobi clans. She's cute and sturdy and elegant, in different phrases. The whole lot. That Sakura isn't always Aunt Kasumi's warnings, approximately the jealousy of shinobi earrings in her ears. However, Ino is at the least as stylish as cousin Kiku, except she manages to drag off the same beauty at the same time, as she's sweaty from schooling or sparring against an opponent. I have made a pal, Sakura tells her mother one night, as she sits by her mother's bedside. Her mother has been getting worse lately, sometimes spending days at a time bedbound. However, Sakura attempts to constantly make an effort to take a seat with her for a while. She's type, and delightful, and elegant as a lady, however additionally amazing robust. Today while we have been sparring, she beat one of the boys. It truly is top-notch. Sakura, I am glad you've made a friend. Friends are valuable belongings in lifestyles, so hold tightly onto them. Whilst Sakura is 8, she is once more added to the matchmaker. The information of the bloodbath of the entire Uchiha clan, shop for Sasuke-kun, weighs closely over the meeting. The entire village, even it's too risky for Sakura to continue on the academy, Aunt Kasumi says. One of her classmates were given his entire extended family massacred. We cannot threat something like that happening to us. The Uchiha bloodbath took place due to the fact one boy snapped. Her mother replies, she's light and her voice breathless, but she's there, with the same hint of metallic in her eyes that Sakura recalls from their final meeting. The threat of that taking place to the Haruno clan is next to not anything, specifically as the Haruno don't genuinely have any shinobi. Sakura listens with half an ear to their argument. Having heard the identical factor several times over the previous few days, she thinks instead of Sasuke-kun, who is probably the best and most outstanding boy she knows. Maximum boys are disgusting and silly, but he is not, and now he is all by myself in the global, and she needs that. She knew what to say to him. She frowns at the notion of having to leave the academy. She is not close to Sasuke-kun, however. If she leaves the academy, she might be all the time separated from him. The concept of maybe never seeing him again stings no longer, to say the sting she feels at the concept of never getting to see Ino again. Ino has ended up a completely huge a part of Sakura's life. She's the reason that Sakura has persevered on the academy, notwithstanding the alternative kids teasing, and she's the reason that Sakura has improved sufficient to make the alternative children mostly forestall their teasing. She is still far from the nice at sparring, but she has improved enough that it's far easier to choose on someone else. A truthful difficulty the matchmaker intervenes. Whilst the tone among Sakura's aunt and mom becomes too warm, existence as a shinobi is tough and complete of dangers. Existence as a civilian, as a lady, is both more secure and less complicated. Sakura permits her gaze to wander, paying attention to the adult's conversation with a half an ear. The matchmaker's reception room is massive and full of interesting matters. There's a bookshelf, and the walls are draped in colorful fabrics. The floors are blanketed in thick carpets, and there may be a low table with a teapot and numerous cups. At the back of the matchmaker there's a door, left partly open. Through it Sakura spots a boy, a bit older than her, with green hair and light skin. He is sitting at a table, brush in hand as he cautiously draws something in ink. As Sakura watches, his loose hand absent-mindedly strays to his nostril. Except Sakura asks to be withdrawn from the academy. I refuse to allow it. The deal was that she receive a preference, and a preference she'll get. I can't agree with. You'll instead see Sakura emerge as a shinobi, then a girl as if feeling her eyes on him. The boy appears up, his eyes assembly hers, his index finger remains buried in his nose. He blinks, and then rapidly pulls his finger out of his nose, undoubtedly obtrusive at her, his yellow eyes alight with anger. Sakura glares back, due to the fact he's a disgusting boy and become choosing his nose only a second in the past. And that is just disgusting. What do you say, girl? If you have been pressured to pick out today, might you end up a girl or a shinobi? Blushing in shame, having been stuck in her inattention, Sakura quick turns again to the matchmaker, her aunt and her mother. The matchmaker ranges her with a stern, worrying appearance, and Sakura swallows nervously. I would want to grow to be a shinobi. Sakura hesitantly replies, contemplating Sasuke-kun and Ino. I'm on the pinnacle of my magnificence. I have made pals. I do not want to depart them. From the corner of her eye she sees the boy rolling his eyes, making her blush. Akihiro, again to your homework. The matchmaker snaps. What? I didn't do anything. The matchmaker ranges him with a glare that has Sakura flinching from the coldness of it, glad that she isn't always on the receiving stop of it. Reluctantly the boy returns his interest to the sheet in the front of him, which now has a huge ink blob on it. Excuse my grandson. Now, where were we? Sakura become announcing that she does not need to go away the academy, and as her mom, it's Miles' best eye which can withdraw her. Sakura forces herself now not to take a step lower back, as the matchmaker offers her a calculating look. What? If I instructed you that existence as a shinobi will maximum probably lead you to an early, pointless and painful loss of life, lady, and that if you keep education to become a lady I will get you a fit with a wealthy and exquisite noble. Two extremes laid against one another. Sakura glances at her mom and aunt, knowing that she cannot to choose. Is this it then? Is that this the moment? Whilst her destiny is decided, she doesn't want to leave Ino or Sasuke-kun, but she knows too that no longer all shinobi develop antique. Her personal father is an example of that. Does she want to position herself in that type of hazard? Would possibly it certainly be better for her to choose to become a girl, to marry a noble and settle right down to have kids with him. A more youthful her may have wavered, might have given in, but a younger her hadn't befriended Ino, hadn't visible Sasuke-kun. What is a noble she's never met compared to Sasuke-kun? She cannot consider a boy cooler than him. I need to come to be a shinobi, she replies, except, I have already met a boy I love. Both her mom and Aunt Kasumi startle at that. Sakura hasn't instructed them approximately Sasuke-kun, and the marvel is written sincerely on their faces. Then, I suppose there may be nothing to be accomplished about it. The matchmaker admits, the excellent course of movement might be for the girl to continue to receive twin schooling. Sakura sighs in comfort. They are not going to try and pressure her to leave the academy. I did it. Her inner voice cheers. Not anything will separate me from Ino and Sasuke-kun. The Haruno clan has a medium-sized compound at the outer borders of one of the civilian districts of Konoha. It's miles surrounded by using high partitions, but has a large, open gate welcoming people into a small marketplace. Rectangular. That is the primary region where the Haruno promote their wares in Konoha. They've stalls someplace else, in other marketplaces in the village, but that is their stronghold. The speciality of the Harunos is fabric, and this is evident inside the wares being bought. Vibrantly colorful fabric are on display everywhere. Litho-sized dolls display a number of the maximum fantastic and intricately embroidered clothing that can be determined everywhere inside the country, and over all of it hangs the fragrance of the herbs used to dye the fabric. Sakura, her aunt and her mother slowly make their manner closer to one in all the larger stores outdoor, of which some of stunning kimonos are on show. They don't input the store itself, instead they make their manner around to the facet, where a set of stairs cause the condominium on pinnacle of the shop. Sakura worriedly walks in the back of her mom up the stairs, noticing that Mabuki is panting and trembling. Mother, she says, worry evident in her tone, are you alright? Mom would not answer, but attempts to smile comfortingly and wave away Sakura's challenge. The attempt is incredibly lost, given her unnatural paleness, and completely long gone when she collapses simply inside the door. Mom, it isn't always a complete on-fall, so the thud while she hits the floor is quiet. Sakura rushes ahead and takes her mom's hand. Sorry, her mom pants. I'm sorry to be the sort of a burden. Hush, Aunt Kasumi says, kneeling on Mabuki's other facet. Let us assist you to mattress, after which you may rest. Sakura-chan, please assist me. Assist your mother with Aunt Kasumi for aid on one facet and Sakura on the other. Mabuki manages to get up and stumble. The relaxation of the manner to the bedroom she and Sakura share. They assist her undress and get into mattress, in which she right away falls asleep. Sakura tucks her in gently, a involved frown on her face. Do not worry, infant, Aunt Kasumi comforts. She'll be alright, she always is. She simply overexerted herself. Sakura knows this, but it doesn't make it any easier to see her mother this unwell. She wishes she knew a way to assist, but quietly resigns herself for as a minimum a few days of fear, with a remaining lingering have a look at her mother. She joins Aunt Kasumi within the dwelling room. Cousin Kiku is there, working towards her embroidery. She's running on a get dressed for herself. The embroidery a easy floral layout. Aunt Kasumi choices up one in every of her very own projects. A kimono ordered by means of one of the ladies on the daimyo's court docket. Her embroidery is, in comparison to Kiku's, a fair deal extra complicated and intricate. How did the meeting with the matchmaker go? Kiku asks. Sakura is to maintain as she has. Aunt Kasumi replies, for now, at least honestly. Kiku appears in surprise between her mother and Sakura. I thought for certain she might put a forestall to it. She desired to. Mabuki is being cussed, once more recognizing a communique that may not need her input. Sakura selections up her very own strive at embroidery. Like Kiku, she's working on a get dressed for herself. Not like Kiku, she has but to master the competencies important for any complex designs. Focusing alternatively on man or woman vegetation, she takes a deep breath, realizing that her hands are trembling, and attempts to discover that internal place of peace necessary. Rationality, sensitivity and spirituality, she reminds herself. These are the pillars of the art of embroidery. Alongside the internal calm she needs to attention. Slowly her heartbeat slows down, and he or she focuses on the stitches, on seeking to cause them to as specific and sensitive as possible. The paintings is complicated, sufficient to need all of her attention, and steadily the worry and tension in her bleeds out. Things might be very well. Her mom's ailment frequently has her bedridden for days at a time, but she constantly recovers, continually. Sakura just has to accept as true with that this time will be the equal. I am to be betrothed, cousin Kiku confides one evening. A few weeks later they may be inside the restroom, helping each other easy their hair, and comb it out with scented oils. Sakura pauses, comb halfway through Kiku's hair. Your Kiku makes an affirmative sound, nodding eagerly. I overheard parents speak approximately it. Do you realize who it's for? Sakura asks, slowly resuming the combing. They failed to say the call, but reputedly he's the heir of some other merchant clan. It is going to be beneficial for the extended family, so he is not a prince. Sakura's tone is gently teasing, referencing the frequently the two have fantasized approximately their destiny husbands. Kiku has continually wanted a prince for herself to come to be a princess at some point. Sakura used to want the equal, but now she isn't so positive. Sasuke's face flashes before her eyes for a moment. No, seemingly no longer. However, it'll be exact for the clan, proper, to shape ties with some other merchant clan, so that we can supplement each other. I assume so. Too awful he is no longer a prince, even though I suppose those are pretty rare. Yeah, I understand. However, a noble would have been first class. At the least, Kiku sighs longingly, her gaze growing unfocused within the replicate contrary of them. Sakura quietly continues brushing Kiku's lengthy, beautiful hair, nearly as crimson as hearth among her hands. She thinks of antique fantasies of a prince, of her modern-day ones of Sasuke, and of her recent falling out with Ino over him. There may be in pain in her coronary heart, and she does not recognize what to do. Approximately it. You're fortunate. You recognize what? Sakura asks, feeling like she's misplaced the thread of the communication. You are lucky. Kiku repeats, her eyes assembly Sakura's within the reflect, together with your hair you are bound to attract and noble. You would possibly certainly get a prince at some point. You've got beautiful hair too, Sakura says, and yours is an awful lot softer than mine. However, crimson hair is what the nobles need in a wife. They may not care which. You're simply from a merchant extended family. In the meantime I'll be marrying every other service provider. Just because I am caught with this purple hair. Sakura stares at their mirrored image for a few moments, mouth agape in marvel. Earlier than she tears her gaze away and appears down on her hands. Over again the mission of brushing is forgotten in favor of her internal turmoil. She attempts to sort through the thoughts speeding through her thoughts. I thought you had been enthusiastic about the betrothal, she says at last time. Kiku says, shrugging, it is my future. In any case, it simply sucks that the color of my hair will limit my probabilities. It is no longer honest. No, I think now not. Sakura finishes with the brushing, and that they change places. She sits nevertheless, as Kiku begins to comb through Sakura's personal, coarse tresses. Is it true that you do not need a noble anymore? Kiku asks after a few moments of silence. Surprised, Sakura looks at Kiku in the mirror. However, Kiku does not meet her eyes, for all appearances lost inside the undertaking of brushing Sakura's hair. Who said that? Kiku shrugs and does not answer in the beginning. After some moments of silence she speaks quietly, her voice tender and fragile. Mother referred to it to father, stated that they may need to arrange a in shape for you as well quickly. What greater did they say? Father stated he'd bring it as much as grandmother. Oh, I see. She sits quietly, letting Kiku paintings on her hair, while minds swirl in her head. Is it genuine? Although, Kiku asks, have you ever located a person you like? Heat rises on her cheeks and Sakura knows that the fact is obvious on her face. No factor in lying. Yes, she admits, there may be a boy in my magnificence that I really like on the academy, but he is only a shinobi. He's now not just a shinobi, Sakura says, short to protect Sasuke-kun. He's cool and clever and robust, and just the maximum extraordinary boy I recognize. But he's a shinobi. He could be at some point. Right now he's a student, like me. Kiku's arms sluggish in her hair, and Sakura meets Kiku's eyes inside the replicate, seeing the confusion written in her cousin's face. However, you can have absolutely everyone you want, Sakura. You may truly be capable of get a prince. Why would you need to give that up? Whilst the silence stretches out between them, becoming uncomfortably long, Sakura seems away. There's confusion in Kiku's voice, but below that there may be also a tone of actual harm, due to the fact Sakura has an possibility that nobody else in the extended family has, thanks to her crimson hair, and she or he isn't positive anymore. If she even wishes that possibility, I do not know. Perhaps it is just a section and I will change my thoughts ultimately. Perhaps Kiku has the same opinion, even though neither of them appearance convinced. Father said so too. The first reliable assembly among Kiku and her betrothed is a grand event. The Tanagawa clan have invited them for a grand feast, and it seems no value has been spared. The eating hall is decked out in decorative flowers and colorful lanterns. The food smells scrumptious, and all the members in their birthday party are decked out in kimono almost as beautiful as the ones of the Haruno birthday party, with the Haruno extended family being the most professional kimono makers inside the village. That is pretty a feat. Welcome to this joyous event. The patriarch of the Tanagawa extended family greets them. He is in his 1940s, tall and with dark green hair that well known shows his roots from the antique U.S. Aunt Kasumi and her husband bow civilly, although now not an inch in addition than necessary, and Sakura and the rest of their party follow suit. They alternate pleasantries and trade well-mannered small communique, constructing as much as the grand meeting. Sakura allows her eyes to wander over the Tanagawa extended family participants gathered earlier than her. Most of them are adults. However, there are a few kids as properly even though none more youthful than her. Most people of the extended family seem to recreation hair ranging between light and experienced, and a muddled bluish and experienced, somewhat mirroring the variety of purple, orange and blue. Among the Haruno, a head of vivid inexperienced hair catches her interest. The boy isn't always tons older than her, perhaps a head or so taller, and looks relatively acquainted. Sakura tries no longer to stare, as she attempts to figure him out. However, he notices her. Besides, yellow eyes meet hers, and he scowls at her. Simply before the Tanagawa patriarch calls him ahead, and "This is my nephew and inheritor to the extended family." Akihiro. Sakura's mouth falls open, as she abruptly recalls wherein she has met the boy before. She conceals her wonder by means of bowing along the rest of her agency. Earlier than Aunt Kasumi and her husband officially introduces Kiku to her future husband, Akihiro is the matchmaker's grandson. The impolite boy from her remaining go-to there. Sakura isn't sure what to make of that realization. She dislikes him on precept, just for his sheer rudeness, and for choosing his nostril. But then this is best her second time meeting him, and he is perfectly polite as he greets her cousin. The two indeed searching like a stunning couple collectively. Sakura bites her tongue for the night, taking care to talk as little as viable, and being greater well-mannered every time she has to. Throughout the dinner she watches her cousin and Akihiro, noticing the awkwardly stilted conversation between them. She pities her cousin then, thinking if he is as rude and disgusting to her as he become at the matchmakers. Sasuke absolutely is the superior boy. After dinner the adults are mingling and speaking. Sakura retreats to a corner of the room, annoying now not to be inside the way. She researched the women of the room, watching the grace with which they pass in their beautiful kimonos, and the way they convey themselves. This is most effective a festive event among traders, nowhere close to the grand celebrations of the nobility, as a way to sooner or later end up her fact, if Aunt Kasumi receives her way. However, it's miles the first such celebration for which Sakura has been invited. She quietly needs to, at some point, be able to deliver herself the manner these women do. You're the woman playing shinobi. Sakura spins round, surprised by means of the voice coming from proper. Subsequent to her, by hook or by crook, Akihiro has sneaked up on her and is now looking down on her. Sakura is used to having to appearance up at others, but by hook or by crook, the look in his eyes makes her desire that she was tall, sufficient to honestly appearance him instantly within the eyes. I do not play shinobi. She corrects him, attempting and extremely failing to maintain the sharpness out of her voice. I am a student at the academy, and in every other few years, I will virtually be a kunoichi, after which what, you'll turn out to be a hero before retiring, be delivered at the daimyo's court docket, and ensnare a few terrible noble her. Mind spins, looking to provide you with a smart retort, and wholly fails at doing so. Alternatively, Sakura flushes angrily, glaring at him. What is wrong with that? She asks. In lieu of a better solution, it is a silly delusion. It's no longer. It's miles to no, it is not. In some way, at some stage in this short alternate, she has balled her arms up into fists, and whitened her stance in a completely unwomanlike manner. Even without noticing, you can't be both a shinobi and a lady, he explains, his voice annoyingly advanced. Kintu is that the high quality you have got to say. I do not think you've got what it takes to be a shinobi or a girl properly. She mentally fumbles for phrases, her mind developing. Empty. That stupid hair of yours truly is your only asset, isn't it? Sakura is sorely tempted to leap him then and there in a great deal the equal way Naruto would possibly leap Sasuke in sparring magnificence now and again. He's bigger than her. However, among her anger and his pompous airs, she could likely take him. Plus, she's a shinobi in schooling, he is a civilian. She must be capable of take him without problems. Sakura-chan. A voice interrupts her tremendous delusion of pummeling Akihiro's face, and she or he appears up into her aunt's calm, however cautioning face. Is the whole lot okay? Yeah, I'm pleasant, she replies. Yes, Aunt Kasumi, I'm fine, thank you. Aunt Kasumi corrects her, voice stern but quiet. Sakura takes a deep breath and quietly corrects herself, forcing herself not to glare at Akihiro from the nook of her eye, despite the fact that he might be enjoying her humiliation immensely. We're leaving quickly, say goodbye for your buddy underneath Aunt Kasumi's gaze. Sakura forces herself to say a well-mannered, if short, goodbye to Akihiro. His reply is similarly brief and well-mannered. However, his eyes burn with condescendence. Fuck Akihiro, she thinks fiercely as they leave. The concept burns within the lower back of her mind lengthy afterwards, ricocheting between the walls of her thoughts. You are getting fat, Aunt Kasumi says one evening when Sakura is 10. Sakura pauses, arms hovering above the strings of the koto, but now not playing, as she takes within the quiet phrases fat. She repeats, wondering if she has heard correctly. No. She wails internally, I'm a civilian and a foreigner with a too large forehead. I can't be fat on pinnacle of that, sure. I've been wanting to bring it up for a while now, however hesitated, because I sincerely failed to want to hurt your self-esteem. I was hoping it is probably a segment. However, now I'm afraid that if this is going on lots longer, you may be too large for any boy to need you soon. Sakura sits back on her heels and appears down on herself. She does not suppose she looks exceptional from what she has continually achieved, taller and a chunk more muscular, sure, but those are perfectly herbal things, are they now not? Look here, her aunt keeps gently pinching part of Sakura's arm between her hands, and here, she moves directly to pinching a part of Sakura's stomach. It is not terribly a whole lot, however. Now that her aunt has pointed it out, Sakura is horrified. Slowly she brings her personal hand up to pinch, in which her aunt pinched, locating that there is indeed a fold of pores and skin, and fats there beneath her garb. Is it that bad? She asks, voice trembling with fear of the solution no longer. But it is not. But I don't assume it is wise to let this retain. You cannot be a girl or a shinobi in case you grow to be too huge. Are you able to? Sakura has a horrible moment wherein she imagines herself as a girl choji, or even worse, the thought makes her shudder. No, I cannot. Please, aunt. What am I able to do to stop this? I think we would better position you on a weight loss program. I've been noticing that you consume a honest bit more than Kiku, despite the fact that she is years older than you. Reluctantly, Sakura concurs. Growing shinobi need to eat, the academics on the academy tell them. However, then rarely any of her classmates are becoming fats. The manner she is food plan. It is then one morning, when she is strolling in the direction of the academy for worry of being late, she literally runs into Akihiro. She rounds a corner, and there he abruptly is. And earlier than she will prevent, they collide and each fall gracelessly to the floor with twin grunts. She stares at him for a moment, her mind struggling to figure out what simply passed off. He recovers first, and sends her a sardonic smile. And you are purported to be a shinobi. You must have taken grandmother's recommendation and left the academy at his words. Her temper straight away switches from greatly surprised embarrassment to anger, and here she fists her fingers into the ground. I am a kunoichi. You're just a klutz, really, he says, status and brushing off his trousers. Well, I'm just a merchant's apprentice, are not I? You are the one gambling shinobi all day. I am not gambling, she publicizes, shooting to her feet as well. I am studying glaringly. You are no longer superb at it. I am too. Show it. I'm pinnacle of my class. So that you stated. But that does not honestly inform me whatever. I don't know shit. Approximately what you are presupposed to learn at the academy, she falters then. Extra out of Marvel than something else. He is the grandson of the matchmaker and the inheritor to the Tanagawa extended family, and he said shit. He swore at her. Some way this is greater of a marvel than his general rudeness. What sort of evidence do you want then? She asks at last, scrambling to gather her mind. Theoretically, I ought to display best expertise of the shinobi talents. But you wouldn't have the ability to inform. Could you shinobi fight in wars proper? So prove that you could do this. She blinks at him. Then, once, twice you want me to fight you, right here? Now he sneers at her then, obviously insulted at the notion. I don't fight with women, especially now, not infants. I am now not little. I am 10, and the way else do you need me to show it? I am 12, he brags, and I am a boy too. Ladies are simply as strong as boys. Her body trembles with anger, the blood pumping in her veins, and her hands undoubtedly itching with the urge to hit him. He, however, looks frustratingly calm, towering over her with that patronizing look in his eyes. How about this then? He says after a few moments of wondering. I'm bigger and a boy. However, you're alleged to understand all varieties of preventing from the academy. So we will combat with swords. She repeats, feeling like she's missing something. You do not even have a sword. My uncle is teaching me to use one as part of my apprenticeship. Nonetheless, I am only a civilian, right? I'm sure it is not anything in comparison with what they teach you on the academy. They do not train sword combating at the academy. Just kunai and shuriken and stuff like that. Oh, properly. It's disappointing. I guess you certainly are a vain woman gambling shinobi then, aren't you? His voice is so condescending, his smile so haughty and self-confident, that a part of her is screaming in her, a wordless, livid howl that makes her throat harm with the attempt of not letting it out. I will take you on even without a sword. Kunai and shuriken are the basics for any shinobi, and I am going to show it to you. Just say whilst and wear first class. I will locate you after the academy. Shall we out then and convey your sword, in case you even have one. That is, feel free to carry one you too. If you may get your hands on one, you are going to want all of the assist you may get with. A dismissive wave. He turns his again on her and starts strolling away. Sakura stands frozen in location for a few moments, angrily taking into account the benefits of leaping at him now, when he is not watching for her two faculty. An inner voice tells her, subsequently distracting him from the annoyance. This is Tanagawa Akihiro. Crap, I'm overdue. That afternoon he is waiting for her by way of the academy gates whilst school is over, leaning some distance too without problems against the fence. Who is that? She hears Ino wonder out loud. I don't think I have visible him here before. I don't know, some other woman replies. But he's kinda hot, isn't he? And he is. We're given a sword. Indeed, Akihiro is carrying a sword, a real, freaking sword. And right here she had thought that even though he turned into studying to use one, there has been no way he could be allowed to really bring it with him for a combat. He's only a civilian jerk, Sakura tells them dismissively, already heading over to him. She doesn't be aware the amazed scenes the other women deliver her. He straightens up as she tactics, looking at her confidently. She hates how she has to crane her head to meet his eyes. Final danger to again out and admit you're incorrect, he tells her, as if, I will prove to you that I'm a fantastic shinobi. Your preference. Is there a schooling ground or something here we are able to use? She leads him to the training floor at the back of the academy, in which she has spent many hours practicing with each kunai and shuriken along her classmates. They're now not on my own. Several of her classmates have determined to stay and watch them fight, forming a wall of spectators between them and the academy building. If considered one of the lecturers takes place to look out of the home windows, they may not be able to see them combat as soon as on the education floor. She faces Akihiro, mechanically falling into a defensive stance. Akihiro falls right into a similar stance, drawing his sword with gradual, precise actions that reminds her of the way Sasuke-kun handles his kunai, just like the weapon is a herbal extension of him, and not a chunk of very sharp metal that might really damage him if no longer treated cautiously. Perhaps this wasn't this kind of accurate concept, she thinks. Perhaps I should just lower back out now. But a glance around her tells her that it is too late for that now. Her classmates are watching, curious and keen to see a fight. Swallowing nervously, she draws a kunai, elevating it in the front of her, so that she is prepared to block any assault he makes. Her hand is trembling minutely, and she or he silently prays that he cannot inform. My sword has an extended reach than your kunai, he says, frowning. I don't thoughts if you use I do not want to overcome you. She shoots returned, refusing to acknowledge the foolishness of her very own phrases. Best in shape yourself. Countdown from 3. High quality. 3, 2, 1. She, without delay, runs ahead, hoping to take him by way of marvel and finish the combat quickly. But he sweeps down with the sword, forcing her to duck and returned away once more or threat decapitation. The blade of his sword flickers dangerously within the sunshine, and it strikes her that this isn't a mere practice sword, that is a real, sharp and very dangerous sword. One mistake and she or he might absolutely die. Come on, Sakura. A person cheers from the sideline. Display him. He follows his swipe up with some other assault, and she or he increases her kunai to damn it this time, trembling as the sharp edge of the sword clashes in opposition to the kunai mere inches far away from her fingers. This become a terrible idea due to the fact he's focused on where their blades meet. She goes a kick for his legs, hoping to get him off stability. He backs away to avoid it, freeing her to fiat him once more together with her kunai. She dodges the sword but continues forward, using her momentum to throw herself in the direction of his center. A triumphant cry escapes her, due to the fact she is aware of she's received. Then he sidesteps and brings the take care of the sword, all the way down to knock her within the head, making her see stars whilst she will see again. She finds herself staring up at him from the floor, the edge of his sword pressed towards her chest. You lose. He tells her she has dropped her kunai someplace, or even if she nonetheless had it, she wouldn't be able to fend him off from this function. The humiliation burns in her throat and her eyes, blending with anger, and only a tiny little bit of fear. Do you give? He asks after a few moments, when she still hasn't stated her loss. You cheated. She accuses, determined for her classmates to look at and believe her. No, I did not. I am certainly better than you. So do you deliver? Her eyes are locked together with his, that she will be able to hear the whispers of her classmates. It wasn't even a good combat. It become over in seconds. Her inner voice wails, and she's worked so tough to turn out to be stronger, to not be the weakest one each time they spar. In a matter of minutes all of her hard paintings is long past best. I give, she reluctantly says, nonetheless obvious at him. He withdraws his sword and backs up, leaving her area to get up on her own. If this turned into a supervised combat all through a lesson, she would stand up and bow to her opponent, forming the sign of reconciliation with her hands. However, the resentment at her loss is just too sturdy for her to accomplish that now. Defeated through a civilian, and in the front of her classmates as well. Admit which you have been incorrect, he orders her. No, I received, honest and square. Admit that you're a horrific shinobi, and could have been better off taking grandmother's recommendation. Maybe I misplaced, however I'm nonetheless gaining knowledge of. I will show you in the future. His glare intensifies then, and for a moment it looks like he might definitely assault her. Then he relaxes his stance and places his palms in his pockets, turning partway away from her. Something we each recognize. I was right. Whether you assert it out loud or not, you're just being an infant. Approximately it. And he begins to walk away, frivolously, as though he hasn't simply ruined something. Recognition she would possibly have had. Fuck Tanagawa Akihiro, she thinks then, fists clenching at her sides. She'll show him sooner or later. A month before her commencement from the academy, she is yet again added earlier than the matchmaker. The go-to is preceded with the aid of a couple of arguments between her mom and Aunt Kasumi, fights which left the very air of their home so thick with anxiety that it's miles difficult to breathe around. Sakura might have been thankful to be out of the rental, had it now not been for the fact that the tension follows her even to the matchmaker. That is it, she thinks. This is the instant whilst her future is decided. So here you're, a month from commencement from the Shinobi Academy, the matchmaker states. Are you still set on turning into a Kenoichi? I am. I have worked too tough to surrender now. Sakura stands straight before the matchmaker, torn between dedication and worry, between her stellar academic grades, and at least first-rate grades. Within the fight-related training, she's one of the top Kenoichi of her magnificence, topping many of the shinobi-born kids. Even only Sasu-kun has better typical grades. Although this is simplest to be anticipated, given how tremendous he's. We are very pleased with Sakura's successes, her mom chimes in, with a hint of steel in her voice that belays her frail frame. Sakura is without a doubt amazed that her mother managed to come back today, given how unwell she become that morning. So uncertain, the matchmaker says, in a notably non-confrontational tone, given her earlier willpower to persuade Sakura towards becoming a girl. But permit me to provide you an honest warning, infant. She focuses Sakura with a glance that freezes her in location, her vintage eyes taking up a glance of ancient expertise. Existence as a shinobi is not easy. It is hard, violent and thankless. There's a motive that there are so few Kenoichi, and there is a reason why so few of our humans pick to observe that route. Sakura raises her chin, looking to manage a glare of defiance. She's heard all of the warnings of the hardships of shinobi existence earlier than. It might not frighten her any more now than it has inside the past. Yuzashio fell due to the fact our human beings were given too effective, and have become overly assured in themselves. People who remained of our people scattered throughout the lands and swore off violence. Instead we pick out to stay peaceful lives for worry of repeating history. The argument takes Sakura with the aid of wonder. She's decently nicely versed within the history of her humans, but that is the primary time that history is used as an argument against her turning into a shinobi. Her defiance stumbles before this new argument, forcing her to bear in mind it. So, before you choose to turn out to be a shinobi, keep in mind your record's female. Do you need to threat bringing the equal fate to Konoha as that which happened Yuzushio? Because this is your background, it's far handiest years of schooling in etiquette that prevents her from gaping on the matchmaker on the forcefulness of the argument. Does she really need to put Konoha at danger that way? Her body grows cold with fear, every inch of her protesting against the concept of endangering the village, and anyone in it. Sakura isn't the elders of Yuzushio. She bears no obligation for what befell to Yuzushio, and whatever mistakes she makes could be her personal and now not the ones of humans who have been dead for many years. Her mother's voice is forceful, breaking via Sakura's near-trance-like mindset. With a roar of blood pumping in her ears, her mind begins spinning once more. Detangling the argument earlier than her, she nearly laughs at the idea that she of everybody would possibly honestly pose a threat to Konoha, top kunoichi of her year she is probably. But despite the fact that she passes the graduation examination, she will be able to nonetheless simplest be a genin, the very lowest rank of shinobi. Her father, who died a hero, wasn't capable of climb the ranks to chunin or jonin. Sakura has no misgivings about her very own electricity. There is no way that she's clearly a hazard to the village. I'm well aware about our history, she says quietly, folding her arms before her to prevent them from trembling, as she meets the matchmaker's eyes with willpower. Thanks on your caution, but I nevertheless want to become a shinobi. What approximately your responsibility to the clan? Aunt Kasumi asks. It is your responsibility to make an auspicious suit and convey honor to the extended family via your marriage. Sakura's shoulders hunches then, towards her will. While her father died, Aunt Kasumi and her husband had been kind sufficient to take each Sakura and her mom in. Even though she has attempted, Sakura do not forget no other home, no time while matters were not as they are now. She owes Aunt Kasumi and the clan everything, the roof over her head, the meals she eats, the clothes on her body. And she or he has been given an opportunity that none of them have. Along with her distinct and uncommon hair, she is aware of what her obligation is, what the right preference have to be. But Sakura does not need to. I am sorry, Aunt, she says quietly. I need to grow to be a kunoichi, not a lady. You're a minor, and you may do as you are advised. Aunt Kasumi's voice is tough, her face fast growing nearly as red as her hair and her get dressed. You're a Haruno, and you may marry for the sake of the extended family. Sakura is speechless before the overwhelming fury on her aunt's face. Bloodless palms grip at her coronary heart, fear gripping her at the thought that all of her efforts had been for naught under the Hokage's regulation. I am Sakura's guardian. Her mother intervenes, leveling Aunt Kasumi with a glance that has even Aunt Kasumi taking a step backwards. That is authentic until she turns 15 or until she graduates and becomes a shinobi. Once she's formally a shinobi, she could be legally regarded as an adult. The effect is incredibly ruined by means of the coughing in shape following at once after her quick speech. However, the quit end result continues to be the identical. As she worriedly fusses over her mother, Sakura breathes a sigh of relief. There is nothing Aunt Kasumi or the Haruno extended family can do to forestall her from turning into a shinobi. Reluctantly, Aunt Kasumi and the matchmaker deflate, changing appears as they understand that they're powerless.